working on putting the fender back on after it's been blasted. Kind of the continuation of getting the body to fit. So here's the things I've had. Here's the problems I've had. Let's come around here. This I showed earlier that this was split. Well, what happened is then this side goes in like that. So I had to hammer this out. I pulled it here, and you can see it's not quite lined up right yet, but that's okay because I'm going to pull that and I'll get this so it's right. The other thing I'm not sure about is this gap up here, this gap there. Not sure what that really, if that's really the way that's supposed to be. I really don't think I can go up any higher with the fender. But anyway, so then I was coming around. I got this bracket in. I do not have it hooked up. As you can see, it's not even close to there. I'll have to like bend this over. And I gotta make sure it's the correct side. So anyway, then I come back here with this bracket, and this one surprisingly went on better than I thought. It actually helped align everything against the body. And then here too, there's slots in here, but you know, I'm not a fan of slots per se, but I understand why they did it. They have a tolerance build up here, so you gotta have adjustability when not everything is the same. So I don't know if I'm gonna keep it like that or not, but we'll see how this ends up. Then this bracket, I got it bolted in, and that was okay. I had to, you know, before I had to straighten all this out. So now I made some cuts in here so I could make the bend right to come over to here right. So now I can weld this and I'll probably box it in. But my other thing with this is when you pull it, this fender goes in and out quite a bit. So the idea is to get this perfectly straight. You can hardly tell, but it perfectly straight with, you know, the running board. Well, it's close, but as you can see also there's a dent here. So I've got a lot of work to do to keep this straight, but when I do the body work, this has got to be all together. So when I do the body work, it is correct, which means when I put these back in, they have to be back in the same exact spot. And that's where I'm going to have to start eliminating some of these adjustments. The fender's got to go in one way, and that's basically it after I get this all set up. There might be just a couple, but that's it. So anyway, and that is what I did. As you can see on the floor right there, that is these pieces here. I cut the end off on each one of these, and you can see how high that is. See how that is as thick as my finger. So these have to come together somehow. And the reason I cut those off is because I'm going to replace them with thicker ones, and the other ones were, well, the one on here wasn't so bad, but this one was a little more rotted throughout, so I was going to have to replace part of it anyway. But my idea is to put the two pieces in there together, and I can tack them on the back side of these so I know exactly where there's got to be, and then I can drill holes together. I'll probably put nutserts in this and thread it all through this way, so the fender can only go on one way. That's the goal. But the problem is now I've got this big gap that goes, I'm not as worried about this gap as I am this gap. See, the running board is down all the way, which is where I want it. I don't want to lift it up if I don't have to. So that's something I've got to work on. The other thing I noticed that was kind of nice actually was I can't really see in there, but there's the gap. See the gap right there, right along the body? That actually fits pretty good. When you put put the bead in there, that'll turn out just fine. So that is my whole dilemma or situation with this front fender. I'll put the other side on before I go too much farther on this one, just to make sure they're both the same. The thing of it is, I got to make sure that this nose piece, this whole nose piece here, is in the right spot, because like I said before, it will shift back and forth. I think I pulled it back already, but I have to double check that. But there is play in it. I mean, it does wiggle, and that makes the whole thing wiggle. So that's where I'm at. Continuing on my assembly of the vehicle, and so I pointed out, I put this fender on, and I pointed out I had some issues with it. So before I made any changes or tried to adjust anymore, I wanted to put on the other side. So here's the other side. Now this fender seemed to fit better, because if you come down to here, this angle fits, lines up with the nose piece. There's a little dimple there, but pretty good. This part is off, this hole. I think that was originally off. This has a dent here. It needs to be pulled out a little bit. That can help it kind of suck in just a little bit. But like I said, this has been dented up. This may have been off center from the factory. I'm not exactly sure. So then I come in here, and we'll start at the front here. This bracket came over and lined up with here, the slot. I actually just put a bolt in there real quick. The holes in here lined up. I just have it clamped because I'm going to re-nutzert that. I have it clamped down here. So then I came down here and I realized that this bracket on the other side held this fender in. Well, this one didn't. Well, come to find out that this bracket here, these are broke apart from each other, but this bracket here was twisted. This bracket here isn't even attached, but can be attached. I'm gonna weld it in, or replace this and weld it in. So this seemed to fit better, which then lined up the fender to the running board better. And it actually will, see how it's more flush down here. It's a little up right here, but this has got a little flexibility to it that I can still make a little minor adjustments to. And that might be where I put this one, because I can pull this down because this bracket isn't there, which means this could be bent down just a hair, and that'll affect the lineup on that. So when I weld this and affix this permanently, this will have to be pulled down so that gap is correct. I have a clamp holding this to the body to make it a little more, correct. You can see that this isn't right, but this isn't the right shape on the body, so this has to be all fixed. So overall, this side worked out fairly well, which gave me some input to this other side. So what I had to do here, as you can see on this side now, this is lined up. It's all lined up there. A few little tweaks and that's about it. I think the height of this is off just a little bit. But what I had to do is I cut this off, or I broke it off, cut it off, broke it off, and then took this and bent this down. By bending it down, that brought that in, but that was my last adjustment. My first adjustment was up here. This guy here, as you can see, is now lined up. I actually had to grab this and twist it. So it actually, when I twisted it, it actually brought that forward, and that then allowed my fender to drop. And when you drop that fender, the back end comes up, and that's when I had to take this out, cut this, and bend this down. So there's a lot of adjustments here, but now, as you can see, this is pretty close to the nose. I'll say it's good enough right now for the nose until bodywork. This is actually centered nicely. This needs to be welded and probably tapped out a little bit more. Same with the creases, you know, that's bodywork. But overall, you can look down the side here and it's pretty straight, you know, relatively straight. Besides the dents, I'm talking about the alignment. So overall, that fender is in the right spot. Few other adjustments and I will be set. But I wanted to kind of point that out because when I first put it on, the gap over here was so high, so big, that it was ridiculous. Now the fender is closer, still has a gap, that's okay. Because remember, I'm going to put some steel in here and make that right. And it's just a little high here because there's a little bit of adjustment that I can do yet, that I'm going to do. And that'll take care of that. So I'm real happy with the way the fenders are fitting now. I mean, I have another pair of fenders for this truck that I picked up. And the other fenders, this fender I think on the other one is really good shape. And the other one is full of filler, but I don't know how much. But I have a backup pair in case I was getting to the point where I thought this fender was out of whack until I really started, you know, until I got the other fender on to realize how these adjustments really worked. So there you go. That is putting the fenders on. The other thing I had to do was I actually took the nose and tilted it back just a little bit. I pushed it and clamped it. This is a little better. You can see that I lose the body line here a little bit. So there's some dents right in here. So this has got to be worked too, but not there yet. So I'm going to actually get this out of the garage now. I'm going to pull it out because I've got things to do, and there we go.